So today's presentation is all about the overview of the life course framework. Today's presentation, we're not going to go into too much detail of how DDD is using it. We're not going to talk about anything about service authorizations, service planning, but what today's presentation just provides you folks with an overview of the shift that DDD is going through or has been going through since about 2016. We've made sure that we wanted to enhance our person centered supports and person centered planning, and we've enhanced it by utilizing the Life Course framework. And that's what today's presentation is all about. So today what I'm going to go ahead and talk about is we're going to talk about the life course principles. There are 8 of them. Just a quick recap of what the 8 guiding principles are. And then at the end of the overview, we're going to go ahead and talk specifically about the integrated support star and the life domains. At the end of today's presentation, we'll sum things up with a question and answer segment. And then by the end of today's call, when you end today's call, you should receive a pop-up window that has a survey of how we're doing today. So make sure you go ahead and fill out the survey to let me know how I did. All right, so when we are talking about the life course framework, the life course framework at the end of the day, everybody, no matter if you have a disability or not, has the right to live, love, work, and play and pursue their dreams in their own community. The Life Course framework was developed from a Wingspread report back in 2011, in which a whole bunch of national families got together and they were discussing and talking about the change that they wanted to make for individuals with a disability. And this change also happens on the line level of where we are, and also talking about change at the big macro level of making political change and making systems change. At that conference and from the Wingspread report, we came up with 8 different guiding principles and how we can shift our minds, shift our thinking, shift our practices into which it is of what we call the Supporting Families Life Course. The first guiding principle is today is that the Life Course framework supports all people, disability or not. Did you know 4.9 million people in America has a developmental disability? And of the 4.9 million people, only 25% of them are known to the DD system. The rest of the 75% is unaware of the disability services. They don't want disability services, and realistically, they're not eligible. But what the Life Course framework is providing services and supports, not just to people with a disability, but to everyone. Our second guiding principle is that family systems and cycles. We all believe that individuals within a family exist. Individuals always in the center, and always individuals exist within the context of a family. Whether the family member is a paid caregiver, whether the family member is a mother, a sister, or brother, at the end of the day, this family is defined by the individual, and the family is make sure that they provide supports to maximize the vision for a good life for the individual. When we're talking about family life cycles, right? First of all, we have our individual life cycles. The Life Course framework talks about information, or just even in general, broadens our horizons to talk about planning from baby all the way to death, so what we call cradle to grave. And when we realize that is we actually acknowledge with the Life Course framework, we acknowledge that this cycle of individuals' life cycles exists within the context of a family life cycle. And that whether throughout time, supports for the individual can vary as well as supports for the family members. The third guiding principle is the life outcomes. You know, our system has come from a system of providing care, of providing custodial guardianship, right? We initially came from an institutionalized background. But with that, we are changing the focus. We are changing from just solely focusing on keeping everyone healthy. We want to make sure that we focus on life outcomes. And these outcomes are reflected within practices of how we support individuals. And we're changing the focus in supporting our policy and the systems that we participate in. Changing the focus, we focus on the different life outcomes, and the life outcomes look like different life domains. Later on today, we're going to go ahead and break down the additional life domains, but for now, as a glimpse of what we're going to talk about, there are 6 different life domains. So if you take a look on the screen, we're looking beyond keeping everyone safe and secure. We're also looking out for daily life and employment. We're looking out for community living, social and spirituality, healthy living, safety and security, and last but not least, how we can plan for citizenship and advocacy. Guiding principle number 5 is the life stages and life trajectory. This tends to be the most foundational, most well-known guiding principle that we here at DDD use as a LifeCourse framework, and talking about the trajectory, talking about this trajectory of life and how it expands from prenatal infancy all the way to aging. And that the true meaning of this trajectory is we're focusing on life experiences and making sure that even if we suffer a negative consequence, a negative type of trajectory, we focus on life experiences, positive ones, hopefully, as well as the transition on into the next life stage. When we're also focusing and supporting families, families come to us for support, and they come to us support in 3 different types of buckets. The buckets of support are discovery and navigation. They need help with navigating the system. They come to us for support with connecting and networking. They want to just learn from other family members that's been through this system. They want to know that they're not alone, and that's what our connecting and networking bucket is for. Last but not least, of course, we have the goods and services bucket of support in which families need to come to DDD or any other type of service provider for that cause. The 7th guiding principle is the integrated support star, or what we call the integrated delivery of support. So this integrated support star is another pretty common one that a lot of people may have seen, whether it's in your service planning or just you hear people talking about it. But realistically, we look at the integrated supports as the different types of supports that can help an individual as well as a family. Too often do we look at eligibility specific supports. But we want to make sure we open up that horizon and understand that, there are different types of supports available to help the family and help the individual themselves. And we'll go ahead and talk about that one today too. All right, and our 8th and last but not least, this guiding principle number 8 of the LifeCourse framework is that realistically we're applying a public health approach in which we're expanding these types of services beyond just those who are eligible. We're expanding it to public partnerships and also to the community at large. We want to make sure that, this types of support is known to everyone and not just within the service system or provider. Okay? So that was a super quick recap of the 8 different guiding principles that we have. As I mentioned earlier today, we are going to go ahead and talk about 2 specific different guiding principles, and that is the integrated support star and the 6 different life. Okay, you folks ready? All right, so the integrated support star. This is what I was talking to you folks about on there's different ways an individual can be supported. This is how we reframe our conversation, we reframe our thinking, and looking at the different resources that are available to us, that are available to our community, and that are available within the eligibility specifics portion of our lives. Okay, so when we are looking and when we are talking about the integrated support star, I like to break it down as to, when we're constantly going back and forth and talking about this good life, when I talk about the integrated support star, I like to think about it as, who or what can help me achieve that vision for a good life. And realistically, with the help and support that we have in our lives, we rely on natural supports or paid supports and or both. But realistically, instead of talking about this service language and natural supports and paid supports, realistically, the people and the services who and the what that are in our lives that can help us with the vision for a good life is family and friends and agencies and organizations out there that can help us live that good life. Okay? So remember what I talked about earlier about the services and supports are continuing to evolve. If you take a look at just history in itself, prior to institutionalization, we had the individual. The individual was supported by the family, and they lived within the context of the community. With the best intent, we honestly thought as a system that it was best to wrap services around the individual. And, reluctantly and unfortunately, it's cut off the individual from society. We wrap the services around the individual so tightly that unfortunately we cut them off from their family members. We cut them off from the community. They were institutionalized. With the services and supports continuously involving the wave of deinstitutionalization occurring, we realize that now that individuals should not live far away from everyone, they should have the life they live like you and I do. They live within the context of their families. They have the different supports available. And realistically, these supports don't only wrap around the person. In fact, they shouldn't. These supports are kind of trickled within the community, trickled within the family, and then also supporting the individual themselves. So when we talk about the individual support star, the individual support star looks at 5 different areas. Just like a star, right? There's 5 points to a star, and we have 5 different ways that an individual can be supported, and these different ways are integrated. You can use either one of those. Sometimes one might be more supportive than the other, but at the end of the day, we want to make sure that, again, we open our horizons, we open up our thinking, and acknowledge that there are different ways that an individual can be supported. Okay? So right off the bat, what I like to say is a person to help themselves is themselves, right? We want to focus on the positive things that an individual can do. If the individual is extremely friendly, if the individual can voice out their concerns, if their individual, realistically, they're always on time, right? These are all things and personal strengths that are unique to the individual themselves. Okay? So this blue area is definitely going to be different for every single one of you. Okay? Next, we have technological supports, right? Technology has taken over our lives. How many of you folks out there were affected by this Instagram and Facebook down server yesterday? I was like, oh, how am I going to know what my neighbor is eating today? But, right, this technological supports include, right, simple things like an alarm clock, our smartphones, assistive technology, internet, and computers, right? Our smartphone right here does everything. I can track my daughter. I know who's coming, who is at my front door, right? These technological supports actually touch our lives more than we think. Next, we have the third point of the star is what we have are relationships. The relationships within our lives also support us, whether we like it or not. Our friends, our families, our close friends, if you go to church, your neighbors, your supervisors, anyone that you have near and dear in your lives, they provide you with additional support so you can have that vision for a good life. It's kind of like one of those things where, right, it's not who you know, it's not what you know, it's who you know. It's always that uncle down the road that's going to hook you up with a job, right? So these are the different types of supports we have in our lives. The fourth different type of support that we have are supports in the community. So this can be whether you're going to school, whether you're going to day program, whether you're the worker that you work with takes you out for community learning services. There are different types of supports in our community that can help us reach our goals and continue to maintain that positive trajectory. And the last but not least, that fifth point of the star is that eligibility specific support. sometimes with some of the individuals that we serve and support, a lot of our resources, a lot of everything that we have is all in this last point of the star, the eligibility specific support, right? And that's the way that it is. That's the way that our system was designed. That's the system that we're coming from. But what we are doing here at the DDD's training unit is providing that awareness to getting us to think outside of this eligibility specific supports and realize that there are different supports that are out there. Again, this green area is specific to the person and it's eligibility specific. So whether you're receiving WIC, whether you're receiving food stamps, SSI, SSDI, Medicare, Medicaid, this is specifically supports that are in someone's life that has an eligibility twist to it. Okay? So with the 5 different points of the star that I just mentioned, we want to make sure that we understand that there are different ways to support a person, eligibility specific, community resources, technology, personal skills and strengths, and relationships that can help achieve that vision for a good life. Okay? Next, we have our other guiding principle that we're specifically going to talk about today, and this is our life domains, right? So when we are focusing on supporting an individual with a disability, or even when we're supporting someone without a disability, right, we look at different parts of our lives. All of these concepts of what I'm sharing with you today, they're not new. These are all things that we unconsciously think of. But now with the LifeCourse framework, it helps us get these thoughts onto paper and helps us to think out a lot of these concerns, think about these planning issues out loud to help provide you all with that vision for a good life, that good trajectory. Okay? So next we're going to talk about the life domains. Remember when I mentioned earlier, we came from a society that supported individuals with a disability, and we solely focused only on keeping them healthy, keeping them safe, and realistically just keeping them alive, right? That custodial care. But what we are shifting to, and we want to make sure that we as a system evolve with civil rights issues, evolve with making sure that the individual is respected, that they have a self-determined choice, and that they are participating in this person-centered planning. We want to make sure that these different types of planning purposes, or what we call life domains, continue to support that full life for the individual. So the different areas that I like to call the different areas and domains that you can help plan for a person are broken down into six different life domains. The first 3 that I'm going to talk about is healthy living. So healthy living talks about managing healthcare access, making sure we go to the doctor, making sure we go to the dentist, and making sure that our bodies are checked out and we are good to go. Next is safety and security. So this is where when we count about staying safe and staying secure, we want to make sure that our estate and our everything is in order. We want to make sure that all the guardianship, all the different powers of attorneys have been, talked about or even identified. And we also want to make sure that we stay safe during emergencies. The third one that you see on your screen is citizenship and advocacy. Again, this is making sure that the individual's voice is heard, that they have the right to choice, that they have the right to have that self-determined life, that dignity of risk is discussed with, right? Setting goals, taking responsibility, making sure that you take them out to go and vote, okay? This is what we all consider part of the citizenship and advocacy. The next 3 different life domains are daily life and employment, community living, and social and spirituality. When we are looking at daily life and employment, to be honest, for me personally, that takes up majority of my day, right? We want to make sure that we plan for school. If you have a job, we want to make sure that you have volunteer opportunities, or even just having the opportunity to go outside into the community. And that's our second different domain that you see on your screen. That's community living. This is making sure that the individual has a choice on where they live, that they have access to the bus, that there are different home renovations done to make sure they can navigate in the house correctly. And last but not least, we have social and spirituality. I know a lot of times people automatically go through spirituality. Oh no, but I don't go to a church. It's more than just spirituality, right? It's looking at the different people that are in your lives, the friendships that you have, the things you like to do, making sure that we have social valued roles, right? Does everybody remember what a social valued role is? That's a role that you have within the community. I'm a mother, I'm a daughter. It's something that society values. And let me tell you, everyone with a disability or not, everyone has the right to have a social valued role. Okay? So if we're taking a look at the different life domains we have 6 different life domains. What we want to challenge you is we want to challenge you to make sure that when you are planning, not just at your next ISP that you have to participate in, try it on yourself. Make sure that you plan for a little bit of everything that you see on this screen, right? It starts with just even making sure that your estate is in order, right? If you have a will, if you have a trust, or even making sure that you make it a point to go out. Next year, make it a point to go and vote. We want to make sure that we expand our horizon beyond just keeping everyone healthy and safe, and we want to change the focus. And this focus comes from ourselves. We want to change the practice. Of course, everything always starts with ourselves and changing the focus and our practices for ourselves, our families, and then eventually our system will catch up and making sure that we change the focus within DDD as well as within the system of focusing only on life outcomes instead of just health outcomes. Okay? So this was an extremely quick overview of the Life Course framework. And to sum things up, we always want to make sure that the individual is always in the middle, right? Person-centered to its core. Always starts with the individual and it's centered by and surrounded by the family members. When we're supporting the individuals and the family, we want to look at the different life domains, focusing on more than just health outcomes, looking at life outcomes, and then supporting our families in 3 different buckets. The buckets of supports include discovery and navigation, goods and services, and last but not least, connecting and networking. When we are supporting our family members, we also want to make sure that we support our family members across different integrated supports, personal traits, relationships, technology, supporting with the community resources, and last but not least, our eligibility specific star, point of the star. With the Life Course framework, all of these supports bundled together, we want to always make sure that we continue on this positive trajectory and making sure that we plan for life experiences, good and bad, as well as focusing on the next life stage that you're in. Okay? So this was, again, a really quick overview of the Life Course framework. We designed our first Tuesday's training to make sure that it's not too long and it's not too short, to kind of just give you folks tidbits of what DDD and how we at DDD are supporting our community at large through our education opportunities. So if I can go ahead and shift this over to our Q&A portion. Do we have anyone that would like to submit a question through our Q&A portal? We have Cliff over here. He joined us. He's also a member of our training unit. And if you folks have a question, then we can go ahead and be able to assist you folks. While you folks are typing in your questions, we posted several links within the chat that talks about our part 2. If you would like to view part 1 of this series, it's also located on our website at the First Tuesdays training series. Okay. All right, we got a shy group today, guys. So again, thank you so much for joining us here at DDD's First Tuesdays training series. Should you have additional questions, please feel free to reach out to us. Again, my name is Abigail. I'm from the Developmental Disabilities Division, and our email is listed right across on your screen. That's the training unit. doh.dddtraining@doh.hawaii.gov. I also wanted to go